Hey YouTube, this is Tamara Rose Blodgett, the cheating carnivore, no more. Just like to say that because it sounds cool. I got something new I'm doing, and but this is going to be a writing vid, and what we're going to talk about is AI. And I want to talk about that because I think it's going to be a game changer for new authors. And if you guys don't already know what's happening in the industry, this is what used to be happening. You can sell your book with a crappy cover, but generally not. I've found that my taste does okay with my covers, broad swath, but if you're not sure and you're a newer author and you're starting all this and you're getting really overwhelmed, it's best to show your cover, your mock-up, to people that you love and trust that wish for your success, and then they'll tell you the honest truth. I like to get those people's reactions, but about 90% of the time, I'm pretty solid on my covers. Now, it is expensive to do all this, guys. I pay $500-600 a year annually to have an AI translator called DeepL, and I pay about the same to Midjourney, and then they use Discord as their medium for storing the AI that you do, and it's been a game changer, guys. You know, obviously, the foreign translation from AI is not as good as a human being doing it. But what people don't understand, readers don't understand, is that, you know, when you got a catalog that's 80 titles deep, it's on the cheap end, $400 per translated title. And how I look at it is, I would like to have all my titles translated foreign in every language I can AI. And then at least they're there. And depending on the country, depending on the series, I have some that are getting rated around 3.9 to 4.1 stars, which they've been AI'd with their translation. So that's one thing. Second thing is the cover art, which is even more important than anything else. You can have great cover art and a mediocre book and get it seen and read. No kidding. You can at least get buys and reads and stuff. But if you have a mediocre cover and a great story, people will pass over a pretty good book that they don't know is good because they just assume that the book can't be good because the cover's awful. So what I recommend you do, and I know this is tough, guys, we went over formatting and we went over writing, and so the mechanics of writing the book cannot, nobody gets to read your book if it's not written. Like I said before, I'm going to touch on that again. You've got to sit down and have a designated time, like brushing your teeth every day. You wouldn't miss brushing your teeth. If you do, there's issues. So pretend it's just to brush your teeth, an hour a day, at least 5 times a week, 4 at the minimum, 6 at the maximum. You always need to take a day off to be fresh. I always do. And get that chapter in. Try to do it a minimum of a chapter a week, okay? That's first, okay? That's first. And then second, and I know you guys are wondering about my merch shirt here. This is a troll face, and it says, "Get your own bridge." I love that. I'm going to do more of those kinds of things, but I'm going to do AI with that because I want to have the only one with that image around. So that's all another good thing about AI. So those two things have to happen. You have to write the story, get an editor and a proofreader, and hire that stuff out because you don't see your own stuff. That's been my experience. And I have a lot of it, by the way, at this stage. And then once that's done, then you get it formatted. And you can hire it out to someone like myself. And, I just looked into my publishing house that I used to use. I've got an editor that's very inexpensive right now, knows my work, and she's been doing it for a while. But if I wanted to get the same treatment that my books used to get from the publishing house I used, it'd be $700 a novel. I mean, it's gone way up there. And the proofreading is about half of that. So you're going to pay the editor $700 or something, and then you're going to pay the proofreader $300. So it's $1,000 pretty much to get your book clean, and it matters. Readers are fussy. Lots of them, like I said, natural editors. They'll pick out the mistakes. They'll notice if you use a synonym. They'll notice if you miss a quote mark. They'll notice if you put the action in with the dialogue tag, and they'll notice all that stuff. It all gets surfaced. Anyway, so there you go. And then I highly recommend you pay the $500 or $600 for the annual subscription to the AI. And I'll tell you why. One of the most important reasons that I can think of is copyright. Copyright's important in that I get all my stock photos from Deposit Photo, and I'm still using it for vectors and other things and clients and stuff. I also do some blending from some of the photos there. But, you know, those are limited. You know, like I can't do them for my t-shirts. Because the t-shirt's the main drive of the t-shirt being purchased is its graphic. Whereas the book, it's just the graphic on the outside. It's the content that's copyrighted. Okay, so that's a difference there. So, you know, for t-shirts, it just doesn't work. You know, Deposit Photos doesn't work as they are. But you can take a Deposit Photo that you pay for and you can put it in with another one and you can get a completely unique blend that has nothing to do with those anymore, but it's more to your liking. So if you got merch, you want to do that. And if you've got books, it doesn't matter so much. But who wants to, oftentimes when I'm looking through all the books for sale on Amazon, I'll see some of the same stock photos used in a different way. But I can recognize the model. And I find that to be tiresome and not very fresh. And it was something that always bugged me. But I was like, yeah, well, somebody discovered, like, I was the first one to use the roadkill models. Absolutely first one to use them. And then as soon, you know, within 2 or 3 years, everybody was using all the models I had chosen in different ways, the variants. And it wasn't because they were jerks and they were copying me. They liked the way mine looked. And when they saw the model, they wanted to use them too. I mean, I get it, you know, but now I don't have to do that anymore. Now I've got AI and I can take a stock photo of a really good looking man, say I'm doing a romance, you know, dark romance is what I usually do. And I can take that really good looking stock photo image of the guy that's super great, but he's been used to death and he's not fresh anymore. And I can put in another guy with him and make it wonderful and unique and just my own. That's the second thing. The first thing is copyright. The second thing is that you can have a completely unique look on your book that nobody else can replicate because you have AI doing it. And it never does the same thing twice. It's super hard to get continuity. I'll talk about that next, and why AI art is in its infancy right now. In 10 years, you'll be able to just speak aloud and say, "I want this, 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 this," and it'll do it. And I want all my characters to look somewhat alike, or I want them to look like that. You won't even have any put it in the computer. Trust me on that. Anyway, so I did that. For instance, in the Blood series. You know, a lot of my characters are werewolves and angels and demons and vampire and stuff like that. So when I had a theme change in one of the books, like Redemptive Blood was centered around a demon guy, I took my cool roadkill guy that I loved, that I was just mentioning just a few moments ago. I took him and I mixed him with a demonic creature. And that's what I put in. I got the demonic creature I liked. On AI. I did a / imagine, and then I put in what I wanted to see. And when I found, after a couple tries, when I found one I really liked, I isolated him, and then I blended him with my roadkill guy. The model I used 8 years ago for the first roadkill. Anyways, and so I blended those two, and I got a guy that looked studly, but he had horns, right? And so he worked. He looked like a kind of half human turning into a demon, which is exactly what I wanted him to look like. And then I had the cool background and stuff. So I'm real excited about that. That potential to, you know, and then I did the same thing with an angelic creature, and then I did the same thing with a werewolf creature. And I didn't want them to look too trite or contrived or common or as everybody would think they would look. I wanted them to be kind of artistic and looking like they were in the process of turning, of shifting and changing. And so I did that, and it worked out wonderfully for the Blood series. You'll notice that as it progresses, they get more and more werewolf looking, and it was just fun to do. And that's another thing too. It's small, but it's important. You know, now when I'm making up covers, it used to be a laborious process where I was trying to get the most unique, best cover assembled and fashioned with my skill set, which was barely mediocre. My graphic design skills are from trial and error. That was always a big frustration for me. When I would take on a gig, I knew that the skill set was only going to go to here, and I priced them accordingly. Now I can price a little higher because the AIs now allowed me to have a state-of-the-art cover, personalized to that person's desires. And that's another thing too, is when I do an AI cover, I put in the / imagine, and then I put in all the keywords that I want to see in there. For example, you know, I'm not going to give all my secrets away, but I can kind of give you some guides. I would say things like gothic, brutalist, eerie, creepy, romantic, and say slightly creepy because I didn't want it to be too horrific. But all my stuff is dark. So it needed, and I would put dark atmosphere, and I put crescent moon, and I had all these background things that I wanted as part of it. And it got, you'll have to look at the Druid series to see that background where there was rose petals falling. It was dark and it was beautiful, and I loved it. AI is everything, guys. The genie's out of the bottle, and they're not pushing her back in. So some people have been kind of surprised I did AI in the industry, and other people that know me pretty well. And I'm like, well, it's not something that's going to go away. Me being all principled and trying to push it back in isn't gonna do me any good. And I need to be the ruler of my book empire. I can't let it fall apart because I'm getting all principled and freaked out about a new technology. Now, I just delved in and got it going. Of course, my third kid, Bird, he's like, Mom, go to Midjourney and get the AI and do all your book covers with that. And I said, okay, I will. And I didn't get around to it for a couple weeks, but then I explored it and I was like, oh my gosh. That was kind of some of the stuff I was thinking about when I started getting after it. And once I realized the potential, I used most of my fonts. I changed them up a little bit to make sure that they showed up in the thumbnail, which is another thing I'd like to talk about, is the thumbnail's very important. Most people are on their phones and they're getting after purchasing books and looking for books and perusing books with a thumbnail presentation. It's very small. It's like the size of between a nickel and a quarter on your phone, and your title and your graphic has to look bright and crisp and readable. At least one of the main words does. And that's something that I've really focused on when I redid my covers, is how they look in the thumbnail. I go into the portal on Amazon and I upload it, and then I get out of the page and I go to the lineup in my KDP portal and I look at how that picture presents there, which is a little smaller, but it gives me an idea. And if I can easily read the title and the graphic looks good and all that stuff, then I just go ahead and I approve it, and then I publish it. And I've republished, all my English. It's all done. And, that just cats, that savage dog. And now I was working on foreign. So I've been going through all my foreign titles that I AI'd, and now I've been redoing their book covers one by one with the new book cover parallel to the English one. And that's I hope to have that spruced up too, so that even if I have an AI translation, which you lose about, probably I would guess, my estimate is 10 to 15% readability, understanding, however you want to say it, between those two. Natural human and then another thing. But I've had humans translate my books, and they haven't done a good job. They've been worse than AI. At least AI gets all the details in. So there's that. And then I did pay the money to have Noose and Snare, books 1 and 2, and Roadkill redone by a German translator, because I have a lot of following in Germany, and I wanted to show that, pay it forward a little bit. I was like, yeah, I'll spend the money on those two because people are really liking them and buying them. And it's just those two, but in an ideal world, if I was just made of money, I would get all the first books of all my series redone by a human, and then they would sound really good. But in 10 years, that won't matter. AI will be to such a point that everybody's going to be able to understand the books. They'll be able to copy my narrative. The AI will. It'll be that fine-tuned, because I just know it's going that way. And I've written futuristic fiction, so the death series, which was so futuristic and unbelievable when I wrote it, is now coming to fruition. Right now, exactly the time I thought it would be, which was just a happy coincidence. I wasn't that, great or anything. Back to AI. If you spend that money, don't worry about the translation model. To get your books translated through AI, it's got to be something like me, where I have a huge catalog, okay? If you have a huge catalog and you're already a mid-lister or above, nothing I'm going to tell you here is going to be that great, unless for some reason you want to just take up formatting. Who would want to do that at my level? It's easier for me to do it now. I don't have to send it off to anybody, pay them, wait for them, nothing. I don't have to worry about quality control. I do it. That's great. And I've been doing it for almost 14 years, so that works. But for other people that are just starting out, just go ahead and go on Fiverr and look at the translator that has the best cost with the highest amount of reviews with the highest level. You want a level 2 or top rated to handle your book. Preferably you want an author. Because of an author, translates your book, they're going to have an eye for writing with it as well. So that's like a duality thing. Sometimes people come in and they're like, you charge too much for your translations. I said, well, you got a novel here. I said, if you want just some dude or some gal to translate it, that's cool, but they're going to just translate it. They're not going to be able to make quick decisions on what reads better based on artistic leanings and mental construct. They'll just go in there and go, oh, she said, Joe petted the dog. How does that help you? Pay a little extra, get me, and I'll have an author's eye on it, an experienced author. I didn't mean to go into translation too much, but if you're just starting out and you have your first novel, absolutely get it translated. Start with the most spoken language in the world as common sense, but I found Germany to be very voracious readers. So I would go German, then I'd go Spanish, then I'd go Brazil. After that, that's what I do. Without that AI art to leverage, and I'll tell you the other thing. So I said copyright, unique to your book, okay? It's fun to do. It's not laborious like the old way. The AI stuff is super fun. And then the fourth reason, which is critical, is the money, okay? The kind of book covers I wanted were ones that were running between $500 and $1,500. Really good ones that were relevant, that were surfacing well and selling books well were about $1,000. And here I was having these huge series, 80 books. Needed to have them all recovered. They were all looking dated. I was hating it. I was looking at this 80 book redo and going, how can I do this? And I have to do this every 5 years. You know, I was daunted. I was like, wow, this is disheartening. So the AI thing came out just at the time when I was thinking, gosh, what do I do? And so I went ahead and bought the program, and I got the most expensive one that generates the most images without any kind of extra, paying or anything like that. Guys, I just gone up the hill. Haven't walked in a couple days. That's right. Got that one, and it's been terrific. And it zooms out. It allows me to do a print size. It allows me to do variants, really, really subtle variants, real strong variants. It does it in high res. It's a fantastic program. I like it. There's a few glitchy things, and there's a few things where, body parts are like there's only 4 fingers or something. And there's stuff like that, and you have to watch for it. So I really watch limb placement and body or toe or finger count, because sometimes they'll have the girl with her hand back like this and her elbows pointing the wrong way. Yeah. So I'll have to, sometimes if I really like the image, I'll take a shaded square over that and I'll say vary that region. And then it'll give me variance of that region. And then they'll either correct the arm or they'll make it go behind her or something like that. And I'll be like, okay, that's better. But if you're just starting out, the AI is the way to go for the images, because unless you've got $1,000 there for the editing and $1,000 for a book cover. And then every time you want to change on that book cover, your cover artist is going to charge you $25 to $50. Oh, you want to change your name? You want to actually use your middle name instead of your middle initial? Oh, you got a new author bio photo. You want to put that in? $25, $50. Ching, ching, ching. It's all add-ons. And you know what? It's fair. It's their time. It's just that I don't want to pay them anymore. I was having trouble. I had a gal, real talented, really nice cover artist. She did Brolic for me a few years ago and some other things. And I kept asking her. He goes, can you do, I need my Siren series, the trilogy recovered. I said, it's just looking terrible. I got to get after it. I need a merman type of guy. I said, can you look through stock and can you mock up something for me? And I was going to pay her because the series needed to be done so badly. And she was like, stalled, moved, got back to me on the other cover she had done for me. And I didn't ask her anymore because I was like, well, clearly you've got big enough clients that you don't need to ask me. You can stall me. But that meant that I wasn't ever going to be a client again. When she did that, I was like, oh, okay. And then 2 weeks later, literally, Bird was like, Mom, do AI with Midjourney. I was like, okay. But he's given me a lot of young person's advice. And when I say it that way, I mean, he thinks out of the box. He thinks like a 30-year-old, because he is. And he's just looking at what I'm doing for my job. And he's like, hey, do this. And then he made up the Excel scheduling spreadsheet for Costco nationally. So he's super good on a computer and real organized and thinks very systematically. I hired him to do all my scheduling. So now he does that. And that's a big job. As I mentioned on prior writing videos, KDP has a 5-day promo per title available to you in a 90-day quarter, within a 90-day quarter. You don't have to do it all at one time. But anyhow, he's scheduling all that for me now, using the precepts of what I did. Then he changed it up, and he made me more money before my foreign translations had any of their new covers. He made me more. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to give you a bonus. I'm going to give you 15% of the net gain on the foreign. So anyhow, he was very incentivized. He was like, well, that's great. I said, right? It's great for me too. Everybody wins. I can have my own kid in my sensitive KDP portal. Got to be careful there, right? Not with him though, of course. But just to hire somebody as an assistant, you got to know that they're not screwing you over, right? AI is important. Copyright, never have to worry about that. It's easier, it's faster, it's more fun, it's more exacting to the vision of your story, which you uniquely know, and it's way cheaper. I know 500 or so. That's a lot, guys. I know I'm a penny pincher. I totally am, so I get it, but I will say that it paid for itself the first couple of covers I did. There's no way I could have gotten that quality and that kind of precision that matched the story as well as I did without using the AI. And they're a little artistic. They're a little blurred. You know, they're not these crisp. All of them aren't. Some of them are. But like Blood and Savage, they're almost ethereal and dreamlike. And that's how I want them to be. In the case of Blood, a little bit more nightmarish. Savage is that way too. Savage and Blood have kind of antique-y feel to it and a little bit of creepy, and Blood has kind of a little bit of a dangerous dark feel to it. And it's because of the keywords I put in there. And once I got an image that I thought was real close to what I wanted, I isolated it and varied it until I started getting more images that I loved. And it has worked out tremendously well. Now I'm on the downhill slope. I've got halfway through my last language of updating the covers and the formatting to some degree. And so this is what this video is all about. Your takeaway is you got your book written. Okay, congratulations, because that's a lot. Then you get it edited and proofed by someone that knows what they're doing, like myself or a contemporary of mine. Whoever, it doesn't have to be me, but I do a good job. And I like to pay it forward by doing this kind of work for other authors. And then 3, you got to have great art. Okay? And we'll talk about marketing next. Because marketing's fussy. Marketing's super fussy. And I'll only give you what I know. Thank you guys for watching. And please subscribe and like this and share it with whoever you think's going to dig it. Thank you.